hold on to your hammers and frittatas and get your granddaughter to commit murder, because we're going to a foreign country.
We're not going to a foreign country. We're into Canada.
The third last episode of Gen V is here, and I'm somehow more confused than ever. But luckily, due to my Rain Man powers of analyzing random shows, I think I have some answers to some of the show's biggest questions. What does Stan Edgar want? What happened to Cipher's power? And how exactly do you make a good frittata? But before we begin, I'm just one guy writing, editing, and producing these videos, so if you could give a like, comment, and subscribe, every little bit helps me get into that YouTube algorithm. Last episode, Marie went full Jesus and resurrected her sister, Annabeth. Now if she could turn water into wine, she'd be the most popular kid on campus. This was all a ploy by Cipher to, quote, level up her power. And boy, has it paid off. By manipulating blood, she could theoretically heal Polarity's micro-tears, Sam's anger, Kate's concussion, and the mysterious burned man who may or may not be Thomas Godolkin. We'll get to that in a bit. Elmira is on full alert as the gang attempts to escape. We'll even see one of the guards with an anti-soup high-frequency whistle, which we'll later learn was developed by Thomas Godolkin himself. Jordan makes quick work of them, and one of the things I've been wondering this season is if Jordan can level up their power as well. Currently, Jordan can only shift into their male and female selves. But what if this is only the beginning? What if they could shift into others? But what we really need to talk about is Annabeth. Like her sister, she's a soup, and a soup with a power that is definitely a game changer. Annabeth is a precog. She can sense things before they happen. However, her powers haven't been fully realized. For example, she has very little control over this power. She doesn't know when she'll get them or if they'll even come true. As Annabeth will later tell Marie, she never wanted to be a soup. She's done everything possible to hide her power in who she really is. It makes sense, her soup sister killed her parents. What will be interesting to see is if Annabeth starts to embrace these powers and learns how to control them. How far into the future could she potentially see? Crashing into the prison like the Kool-Aid Man is Kool-Aid Sam. Last episode, when he wasn't beating off his dad, okay, that came out wrong, he was doing a lot of soul searching. His mother basically told him that even though he was born predisposed to delusions and hallucinations, ultimately he has to come to terms with making his own choices. He originally told Emma he wouldn't help them in the Elmira breakout, stating that Kate deserves what she gets. But this change in heart is Sam taking ownership of his past actions and beginning the road to redemption, one busted wall at a time. Commandeering an Elmira prison van, the gang make their way to... This is the first time the gang has really been able to settle down and acknowledge that Marie just resurrected someone from the dead. She describes it as connecting to every cell in Annabeth's body like it were her own. Emma refers to it as a miracle, the same word Cipher used to describe what will happen when Marie unlocks her true potential.
Miracles. Miracles beyond your imagination.
Now, there is still a lot we don't know about this power. How long can someone be dead before Marie's powers won't work? Is there a cost to this power? For example, we saw the intense pain everyone around Marie was in while she brought Annabeth back. Is energy required from others in order for this power to work? Things are understandably cold between Annabeth and Marie. Annabeth swats Marie's hand away after Marie promises she'll be safe. The irony here is that Annabeth has never been safe around Marie, especially when she was a child. In one of the most cryptic scenes of the episode, we find Cipher performing Physio on his quote-unquote dad, a man billed in the credits as grotesque person. The dominant theory out there is that this is Thomas Godolkin. However, if you've seen some of my previous breakdowns or theory videos, you'll know there are a lot of inconsistencies that might make this person someone else entirely. Cipher gets a call that Marie has escaped, inducing him into a rage where he slaps the shit out of his so-called dad. But is he really slapping his dad? To make sense of this, we have to buy into the theory that Cipher is either A, being controlled by the burned man, or B, has swapped bodies with him. The biggest clue we get here is that Cipher calls the old man a pathetic dumpster baby, not really something you'd refer to your dad as. If, however, you look at this scene with their bodies swapped, you can look at it as a father chastising an unwanted son for his failures. Think of it as a father taking out his anger on his child, only in this case the bodies have been flipped flipped. And you know, now that I use the word flipped, I wonder if the Sam and Kate movie of the same name has foreshadowed this the whole time. I also wanted to mention the burned man's right hand, which looks like it's missing. If we take a look last episode, he does have a hand, so maybe it's just a weird camera angle. The gang makes its way to an abandoned library, passing a local Jitterbean Coffee and Global Wellness Center. A Global Wellness ambulance is what took Polarity to the hospital in Season 1, and it's where soups like Webweaver went for rehab. Try saying Webweaver went to rehab 5 times fast. The Steuben Community Library is most likely a nod to Baron von Steuben, a German-born American revolutionary who trained Washington's troops, just like another German, Frederick Vaught, will usher in America's soups. This continues to add to the German and Nazi imagery we've seen all throughout the season. It kind of makes sense in this dystopian fascist world where Homelander has taken over that libraries are the first to go. There's even book burnings where we see a pedo drag story poster, and 1984. Can't have a book about authoritarian rule now, can we? Marie and Jordan have a little heart-to-heart in which Jordan claims Marie might be one of the most powerful soups in the world and that nothing will ever be the same. However, Marie reassures her that nothing changes if we don't want it to. Now, I think those sneaky writers are setting up Sam and Emma to get back together. Further proof that they're setting Emma up to be betrayed by Greg. Take, for example, Emma and Sam's venture into the computer room. We can already tell Sam's a little jealous of Greg. Last episode, Emma told Greg about their plan to break Kate out of Elmira, and lo and behold, Cipher knew about their plan. Greg and Allie are siblings that are most likely working with Cipher and could even be related to him. Not much is known about who they are, just that their parents are extremely rich and paid for the entire Godolkin library. Emma's little cricket Instagram account also contains messages from A.K. Laku, who works in the show's camera department. The tragedy of Marie and Annabeth's relationship centers around a catch-22. The only way Marie can protect Annabeth is by staying close, but staying close is what puts Annabeth in danger. Last episode, we saw Polarity succumb to one of his micro-tear seizures. He's since woken up with a very unwelcomed guest. Cipher knows that Marie will try to contact him, and he wants Polarity to pass on a message. If Marie were to come back to campus and resume her training, he will leave her friends and sister alone. It even suggests that there's more to Marie's power yet to be unlocked. She'll definitely have to learn how to master those newfound abilities. In the week before Andre died, he had small seizures similar to Polarity's. If the frequency of these seizures are increasing, it could mean Polarity is closer to death. If you stick around to my trailer sleuthing section, we have some major clues that point to Polarity being pivotal in the episodes to come. Cipher tells Polarity that he tried to reverse the damage in Andre's brain, but I call bullshit. I still believe Cipher took control of Andre and pushed his body over the limit. Now I want you to pay attention to this interesting line from Cipher.
Time's the enemy to all, even the super able. Do you know that, don't you? You need a miracle. I have one.
Last episode, Sister Sage told Cipher that he doesn't have much time left. This might be a reference to the burned man, who's not getting any younger. If this old man dies, their whole plan likely goes up in smoke. When Harper calls to tell Polarity of Marie's whereabouts, Cipher takes control of him, allowing him to find out their location. Marie helps Annabeth through one of her anxiety attacks, using a technique they used as children. The show reminds us that there is still a history between these two sisters. They did spend years together, and Annabeth's story to Zoe about Marie giving up half her Halloween candy is another reminder of that. I also think it's comically ironic that they gave the girl with precog powers anxiety, an emotion that prepares the body for future threats or uncertainty. This precog ability allows Annabeth to predict Vikor's attack, with Jordan and Sam primarily taking on the Viking as the others hide. Kate's powers are still messed up, and Emma hasn't learned to control hers. I still think Harper will be pivotal in Emma learning how to control her power, as when Harper took Emma's ability, she was able to grow and shrink at will. Vikor's attack, however, is put on hold with the introduction of Zoe Neuman. You might remember her from The Boys as Victoria Newman's daughter and Stan Edgar's granddaughter. The last we saw her was the season 4 finale, where she was escorted to Red River after the death of her mother. Her tentacle mouth makes quick work of Vikor, and I'm a little concerned at how little of an effect it had on her. She's super calm, like this is no big deal. We'll later learn that it was her grandfather, former Vought CEO Stan Edgar, who got her out of Red River. He says that he was, quote, pursuing other opportunities after his departure from Vought, something that happened all the way back in Season 3 of The Boys. As he'll later tell Marie, he wants to take back control of Vought, and Marie just might be the tool he needs to do so. He takes the crew to an underground bunker 90 feet down and reinforced with zinc concrete, able to withstand X-ray vision and a neutron bomb. These are nods to Homelander and Soldier Boy. At the end of Season 4, we saw Homelander looming over Soldier Boy's body in this sort of cryogenic chamber. I wonder if Stan knows something we don't, that Soldier Boy is out of confinement and hunting him down. In fact, that might be the reason Homelander lets Soldier Boy out. They both want Stan Edgar dead. Remember, it was Stan Edgar who orchestrated the 1984 betrayal of Soldier Boy, where he passed him off to the Russians. According to Stan, Vikor had a tracking chip he was able to exploit to find Marie's location. Vought has been known to put tracking chips in many of its high-valued soups, which seems to suggest Stan still has access to the Vought systems. I also want to bring up a theory I've had since Season 2 that could completely turn the show upside down, that Stan Edgar is Frederick Vought, who would be the least likely person for Frederick Vought, a literal Nazi, to emulate, if not a black man. It's the perfect cover. We still don't know how Frederick Vought died, and it would be really interesting to explore a Vought-Godolkin feud which took these former business partners down two very dark and dangerous paths. With Stan knowing that Godolkin might still be alive, this changes everything. It was Victoria Neuman who told Stan about Marie and the potential of her power. Now he wants her in whatever plan he's cooking up alongside his frittatas. According to Stan, Project Odessa was the brainchild of Thomas Godolkin with the goal of creating god-tier superheroes stronger and more powerful than the rest. Only two soups were known to have been successful in this project: Homelander and Marie Moreau. As Sam takes in the riveting entertainment the bunker has to offer, he apologizes to Emma, finally taking responsibility for his actions. He remembers how Emma made him feel, and that he hopes one day they can try to rekindle that spark. Emma doesn't seem to be on the same page, at least not yet. She feels conflicted and doesn't go in for a kiss when the moment was there. At dinner, Stan gives us greater insight into Cipher and Godolkin's past. Whereas Godolkin believed he could control soups, Cipher believes in soup supremacy. If, however, Cipher is controlled by Godolkin, it doesn't mean these goals have necessarily changed. While Godolkin was human, he would have wanted to control soups, but after becoming a soup, he can now literally control them in an effort to take over the world. Stan refers to this as Vaughtland über alles, a reference to the opening line of the German unification song Deutschland Lied, which was commonly used by the Nazis. So, if we're going to take what Stan Edgar says here as truth, Cipher, and by extension Godolkin, if they are one and the same, want to create a soup master race. More evidence to support that Cipher is Thomas Godolkin is that he was able to recreate Godolkin's work, even though the plans were destroyed in that fire he was supposedly killed in. We also get our first acknowledgement that Godolkin's body was never recovered from that fire. If the burned man is actually Godolkin, it means he'd be roughly 91 years old. Originally, Stan planned to offer Marie safety in exchange for her help once he regains control of Vought. We don't really know what exactly he means by help here, but the fact he uses the word originally suggests that offer is now off the table, considering Godolkin may still be alive. Whatever Stan's endgame is, it involves control, and if he saves the burned man, who he believes may be Godolkin, it just might be the key to regaining control over Vought. In this sweet scene between Annabeth and Zoe, we learn how they both wish they could have done something to help their parents. Zoe states she isn't sure what happened to her father, Samir. The last we saw him, he stabbed Kimiko with the soup-killing virus and escaped. Stan had told Zoe he had searched for him, but we can't be 100% sure that's the truth, since in Season 4 we saw how much disdain Stan had for Samir, who he said, quote, deflowered his daughter. Now there's a line I thought was a bit of a threat.
It'll be easier if Mary decides to stay.
But Zoe says it so nonchalantly that it doesn't seem like one. Stan brings out a bunch of banker's boxes filled with Godolkin's original research on controlling and subduing super-abled individuals. These include the high-frequency whistles, collars, and even halothane, which we saw used in much of Season 4 of The Boys. If the burned man really is Godolkin, he may have the key to taking down Homelander. Naturally, Marie wants to talk to Godolkin as soon as possible, but Stan does not like that idea. I think he wants wants to get to Godolkin first and not jeopardize the life of a soup he believes is more powerful than all her friends combined. Cipher here on the phone with someone tasked on finding the whereabouts of Marie. If you believe the Greg and Allie theory, it might just be one of them. Or it could be the quantum butthole guy he says is a big disappointment. Frustrated, Cipher has Polarity smack himself and recounts a creepy story about how his dad took him to Australia to cull the kangaroos. What we have to ask ourselves here is, who is really telling this story? Is it Cipher, or is it the person controlling Cipher? This culling was done to protect the herd and preserve the strong, and this is what Cipher reveals to be his true goal when it comes to soups. He wants to get rid of the weak so that the strong get stronger and the mediocre perish. His end goal is to cull 70% of Godolkin, and that's just the start. He wants this to be a global thing. Does this then mean that Sister Sage wants the same thing? Everything about Sister Sage has pointed her wanting to be normal. We see how she performed her own lobotomies just for the chance to feel that way for an hour or two. Why would she then want to create these super soups? Something about it screams ulterior motive. She played Homelander last season, maybe she's playing Cipher and the Burned Man. Cipher goes to slap Polarity, but his control over him suddenly stops. It's almost as if something in Polarity's power is counteracting this control. But how? Polarity can only control metal, so either Cipher has metal in his hand, or Polarity is messing with wavelengths that interfere with Cipher's power. We've never seen Polarity use this EMP-type power. EMPs traditionally only affect electronics. Maybe Polarity's power interferes with electrical brain signals, which might be how Cipher controls others. If that's the case, Polarity may be pivotal in bringing down Cipher for good. This new revelation genuinely surprises Cipher, as when Polarity goes to check on him after he's blasted out the window, he's nowhere to be found. Another theory is that Cipher might be chipped, and if he has a chip in him, Polarity could theoretically tap into that. There's also the possibility Cipher's powers will start to fail as the Burned Man gets older. If his true power originates from the Burned Man, this might explain why he's in such a rush to harness Marie's power. Speaking of Marie, the episode ends with her leaving the bunker. She's only brought more danger to Annabeth and those she loves, and it seems everyone around her is treating her like an object. Stan wants her power, Cipher wants her power, and to nail home this fact, the final moment of the episode is Kate wanting Marie for her power. She is fed up with people telling her what to do, and I imagine her next step is to link up with Polarity and get to the Burned Man. It's kind of ironic that a version of Simple Minds' Don't You Forget About Me plays in the background. Leaving without telling anyone, it's as if she wants them to forget about her. But to really dive deeper into what's to come, let's dive into our trailer sleuthing section. The gang makes it back to campus. Are they here to take down Cipher for good, or has some sort of deal been made with him? We'll see Marie simultaneously levitate Jordan, Emma, Sam, and Greg. Why is she doing this when it obviously hurts them? Could she be taken over by Cipher? Many of the remaining shots center around Polarity, and boy is this dude being put through the ringer. Here's Greg getting ready to attack him. At least I think it's Polarity, because it seems to match with this shot of Sam blasting him in hero optimization class. In what might be an earlier shot, Polarity enters the class using that same EMP scream that disabled Cipher's powers. So who knows, this might give the others the opportunity to subdue or kill Cipher while his powers are out of commission. Behind the vault at Cipher's home, we have this moment where Marie holds onto Polarity's hand as the lights in the room flicker. It appears she's trying to heal him from one of his seizures. I also think it's interesting this happens where the Burned Man is. Maybe they found out he's the one really behind all this. Jordan, Sam, and Emma inside the bunker. Emma looks like she's all wet from something. Will they be allowed to leave freely and go after Marie? Polarity breaking into Dean Cipher's office with Kate behind him. We'll also see him all bloody on the side of the road, stalked by Black Noir. Between hero optimization class, Cipher's office, and his house, he is on the hunt to kill Cipher. In the one shot where I think Marie might actually be puppeteered by Cipher, we have her using her blood powers on Sam, but it's the way she stares at him almost gleeful, positioning her hands like a marionette, that makes me think Cipher is doing this through her. Finally, we have this odd dance number featuring Rufus and a bunch of random students. Could they all be mind-controlled by Cipher? We'll also see Marie pooling the blood of a bunch of dead students. I wonder if Cipher has begun the culling, something Marie and the gang will have to stop. But now I turn it over to you. Will Polarity make it out alive? I want to hear your thoughts and theories in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and for more bad takes, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at ThinkStoryYT. Until next time, remember...
You'll just have to tune in next week to find out, won't you?